Greetings from Tamarindo, Costa Rica. Okay, my name is Suzanne Tedkamar. If you know who I am, that's great. If you don't, I used to write for a place called Pathos, a column called No Longer Quivering. It was about the evangelical quiverful movement and all things evangelical. I did this for over 10 years. I have an upcoming book called With Strange Fire. That's about my bizarre years in the evangelical quiverful movement and all the just truly nutty things that have happened that I sometimes talk about here. Um, these are my opinions. Do your own research to steal from Renell Smith, who's a wonderful individual. Please don't bully anybody and don't even be rude in the comments to each other. That's the only thing I ask. It's fine to disagree. It's not fine to be ugly about it. Okay, so I was supposed to do a video yesterday, I think it was, yesterday evening, about Todd Bentley and that whole crazy, let's snort the anointing right off a freaking rock. I fell down that hole first thing in the morning yesterday and I was going to do a video, but we had some issues with the electricity and some various things with the internet. And I was like, well, I have to do this later. Here in Costa Rica, even though I do have high-speed internet, and it's usually pretty good, it's not always pretty good. When that happens, and I'll do exactly what I'm doing today, I will do a video instead of a live stream. Tomorrow, you're going to want to tune in to Rev Ruin's channel. He and I are going to have a conversation. He comes into my live stream sometimes. We've just been laughing over some of the things that we've both been through in our years in these kind of goofy churches. So I think we're going to have a good time. It's going to be tomorrow at noon Eastern Standard Time. So that would be 11 on Central, 10 on Mountain, which is what I'm on Mountain Time now, I think. And if you're West Coast, that is going to take place 9 a.m. So look for that. But first, I wanted to talk just a hair about Todd Bentley. This whole Todd Bentley thing that I was going to do a live stream on yesterday. I tried to go on this morning and we lost power. We lost power for several hours, and that now the internet's not fast. So I'm going to do this just briefly as a pre-record and upload it. Okay, so I was doing a little research on Todd Bentley because we were all talking about him in one of the groups I'm in. And I was talking about him with a good friend of mine who was also part of the whole movement. We used to love Todd Bentley. Todd Bentley used to do a soaking prayer, like guided music-y thing, where he talked about the oldest recipe that was recorded was one for pickles. And he would talk about just getting so marinated in the anointing and in the presence of God that you were like those pickles. Not sour, but just so soaked all the way through with it. And I loved that stupid song about marinating like pickles and getting that anointing all within every fiber of your being. I loved that. I loved everything about Todd Bentley until I left. And after that, I still listened for a little while. But things got a little messy when the Lakeland revival happened. So one thing I know about Todd, he likes to revival hop. Toronto to God knows where all, and then down to Lakeland, Florida to the Lakeland revival. Where it came out, he'd been having marital relations, which to somebody he wasn't married to, who was one of his unpaid interns. Now, Todd used to brag that he went from doing drugs and stealing and doing various things, including, I think he said he sold drugs, to becoming sold out for Jesus and doing 9 months of soaking prayer. So he was a big proponent of that, and I was too. And I still meditate, which is all that is. It's like a guided meditation, listening to scriptures. I meditate now, but I don't do quite like I did back in those days. So Todd turned me on to all of that. And then Toronto Airport Christian Fellowship, they started doing their own soaking prayer ministry thing. And I signed up for that and took their training and had the little certificate and all that crap. My friend Joni did too, and we used to go to her house and have soaking prayer. We had a River of Life soaking prayer ministry in our area. Very few people came. Usually it was just her and I and our husbands. But we did get a few people, and it was wonderful. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed putting a pause in there in my week, and that was like a 3 hour pause. So Todd sleeping with his intern, and then various people tried to confront him, various pastors, and he refused to be shamed about it. He refused to take any responsibility, pretty much. So a lot of people disavowed him. So Todd has been kind of going around the edges of these revivals now, trying to weasel his way in. One of the recent ones that he was trying to do was the Asbury revival. And my understanding is that is one of the reasons why Asbury, the president, I think it was Dr. Smith, warning, warning, Dr. Smith, Lost in Space. I'm sorry, Lost in Space joke. One of the reasons that he shut this whole nonsense down was because celebrity Christians were trying to connect themselves to it. And Todd was hardly the only one. So I was thinking, I was like, let's see what Todd's up to. Let's Google him and see what he's up to. One of the first things that came up for Todd, and I just hooted with laughter when I watched it, was Todd going to a rock. I want to say it was in New England, perhaps not, to commemorate another famous theologian and his followers. And there was somebody that Todd had great regard for. I don't remember who it was. I was going to tell you guys all that in the video, but it's too many days have passed now. Here's where it gets funny. It wasn't even where the guy was buried. So it was a little weird because Bethel Redding, they're not Todd Bentley, but Todd has absorbed their ministry just like he does everyone he's gone to. And Bethel teaches this thing called soul sucking. What does that mean? It means that you can go to the grave of some great theologian that you admire, some great minister, some great whatever, and you lay your ass down right on top of the grave. You lay down and you start praying to soul suck his anointing or her anointing and for you to carry the anointing forward. They actually believe that. That's stuff that came out around the time I was starting to think that I no longer believe that way because it had just gotten so freaky. So Todd and his friends were trying to snort the anointing off this stupid rock that wasn't even a grave mark or anything. It was just a marker of this guy's things that he'd done in his life. So I was laughing at this. So here they are, and it's in the description of this video. There's a link to that very video of Todd and his buddies sucking it up, snorting it up. They're trying to get the anointing, and I'm not even sure there's any anointing on any rock. Oh my. I look back at this stuff now, and I can hardly believe I used to believe it because it's so out there. And my husband used to make fun of me for watching Star Trek. It's less way out than some of the things they're doing. So the video is by a guy who has his own ministry in Canada. And he was pointing out all the crap that Todd was doing wrong. Okay. So then I went and looked at his website and was like, okay, this guy's a little wackadoodle too. He's a little left of center or super right. So far right, he's left of center. So I started looking through and I started looking at his website and reading his biography where he said, oh, I was saved, and I did this, and I went to this ministry school, and blah, 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 and then I fell off the wagon and became homeless and for, I don't know, 9, 10 years, and I'm now back with Jesus. Here's something about Todd and this guy, because they both had the same thing going on with the drugs and the homelessness and the crime and various things, and going to jail or almost going to jail. This is what happens. when you have people that do not have a good theological base, when they're self appointed ministers, they have no training whatsoever, and they just call themselves this and start their ministry. And then they go off the deep end and they do crazy stuff. And their life stories are kind of cringe. They're not so admirable. Oh, I overcame homelessness and drugs twice and crime twice, and I came out of jail and blah, blah. That's great, but I don't want to know what you're doing now. I want to know that you are steady for years, that you're studying under the auspice of someone who is more stable, who is established, who's not wackadoo. If you tell me, oh, I'm with Reverend so and so, and I can see that that Reverend so and so is a solidly has thought solid theological roots, and he's not gone off the deep end into snorting someone's anointing off a rock, I will give you a second chance. I will say, okay, great. So you're reformed. Great, great. It's great you've placed yourself under authority. Because, see, Todd Bentley refuses to accept the authority of anyone but himself, still to this day. So this other guy, not only does not accept the authority of anything or anyone else, he goes after other ministries that go after him, and it's just a giant pile of crazy. One of the ministers that he's going after actually got a huge fine in Canada for ignoring the orders during the pandemic that told you not to gather, not to hold church services, to do it remotely. This other guy number 3, did that. So I'm looking at all of these guys and going, their theology is way wackadoodle. None of them recognize the authority of anybody else. All 3 of these guys are Lone Ranger going out there. Why am I talking about this? Because I want you to be aware of these kinds of guys. Look at them. Look at the fruit of their ministries. Look at what it is they actually believe. Look at where they've been. Do they go from place to place? Or did they sit under teaching for long periods of time with people like that you can trust? I mean, I look at these guys, and I'm kind of like, I'm an accredited Stevens minister. And what that means is I'm accredited to counsel people coming through the church with various problems as a Stevens minister under the authority of our minister, our Methodist minister at the time. And to do that, I had to undergo a rather long training once or twice a week. I think it was like almost a year, just to be able to talk about hard things with people and to be able to pray for them. I had to undergo that. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in doing it that way. When I was at Raccoon, I almost spit out the name of my old church. When I was at Possum Creek, as I like to call it in my book, when I was at Possum Creek, there wasn't any of that. There were trainings sometimes, but one training I remember for the healing team, I just had like 3 or 4 books I had to read and a couple different training sessions I went to, and that was it. One of the books was called Pigs in the Parlor. I will never forget that one because it's right up there with voodoo in my mind with some of the things the guy was saying. And there was another one I can't think the name of, but it was a picture of a house with lightning over it. But these are all by these wackadoo ministries that really are into the whole supernatural thing in the weirdest way possible. And it's not that I don't believe the supernatural world exists, because I do believe that, but only because I've had experiences with that. But I don't think it works anything like what they're trying to say it does. I don't think there's as much demon infestation as they seem to think, or nearly as much. I mean, we do bad all by ourselves. We don't need the devil to come in there and stir us up to do bad. We can do that. So we can just sit back, have a refreshing adult beverage while we screw ourselves up. So I said I was going to talk about Katherine, dear Katherine, Katie Joy. This week, she has done quite a few very over the top things and said some over the top things about 7M. There's a threat of a lawsuit to 7M from the former dancers, many of the former dancers, and it hasn't actually been filed. There's just been notice that they're considering filing a lawsuit, just like what Steve McRae did when he considered suing KJ and then decided not to. Same sort of thing. Same sort of thing. So who knows if it'll happen? I think it may be a manipulation. Somebody has been talking to these people and trying to influence the outcome of the trial before it even starts. So I wouldn't pay much attention to that until it's actually filed. It might be just be a maneuver. And apparently now we have Miss Katherine trying to claim that she is a disruptor of cults. I have to correct that there. She loves to say that she disrupts them and kills them. The CULT word, okay? She went after the IBLP. It's the only one that I really know that she went for hard. And here's the thing. The IBLP had already been pretty much decimated. They had already lost their big property in Illinois. They weren't there any longer. There were no longer huge amounts of conferences or big Sandy get-togethers happening anymore. There wasn't much of anything, and it was because over 40 different women accused Bill Gothard, who was the head of the IBLP of SA when they were teenagers. And the board at IBLP removed Bill Gothard. He tried to come back 6 months later and they wouldn't allow him. Bill does have his own website. So Miss Katherine is claiming that she took them down. No such thing. That, what I'm talking about, the removal of Bill Gothard from the board, took place, about a good year or so before I quit writing for Pathos. It was over 3 years ago. It was before Katherine ever started covering these things on Without a Crystal Ball. So the thing that took down IBLP, except for in the most skeletal way now, has not a damn thing to do with her. It has to do with the fact that the young ladies and older ladies came after Bill because of the stuff he'd done. We were calling him on Pathos Grabby Hands at one point. Bill Grabby Hands Gothard. So there's no taking down CULTs there. And no matter how she brags. What's interesting to me is she's trying to go after the FLDS right now. And she seems to have dropped that suddenly after starting it again. Here's the thing about the FDLS. The FDLS is like the fundamental, like the, I'm having a brain fart, a senior moment. They are very similar to the group that Steven Anderson runs, the new IFB. Just like the new IFB, there are death threats. There's even a couple of actual deaths that I think probably happened in both places that are probably connected to that. So Miss Katherine is dicing with danger by fooling with them at all. And so now she seems to have moved on to Vanderpump Rules, which I believe is a reality TV show. I generally don't watch reality TV. I have one reality TV show I've watched religiously, and I'm so disgusted with it right now I may stop. It's just not my bag. And it's pretty obvious she hasn't watched any of this stuff either, but we'll see. She seems to still have an insane amount of love for Josh Duggar. Oh, my lands. But that's basically all I want to say about that. I just really wanted to exclaim about the IBLP and her. And what she's claiming isn't even remotely true. Okay, you guys, I'm going to go. It has been nasty here. For the last week and a half, almost 2 weeks, we've had gray clouds every single day. It rained yesterday. We don't see any rain usually until the end of April, beginning of May, mid May. That's usually when the rainy season starts, and it starts slowly. This has started with a bang and a boom. And the bad thing, I'm kind of grumbling about it because here in Costa Rica, we had an intense rainy season this year that started early and lasted almost to mid-December before it finally lifted. Usually you can count the first week of November here. It lifts like that. We've got November, December, January, February, March, April. We got 6 months of dry and 6 months of rain. Heck no. We only have part of December and part of March. So that just leaves January, February. So it looks like we're getting a 4 month dry season this year. And I am mad about that. Mad, mad, mad. So, of course, predictably, my asthma's been going haywire. So you haven't seen me around at all because of that. The haywire asthma. But tomorrow morning, like I said, I'm going to be with Rev Ruin, and we're going to have a blast, I have a feeling, because we're going to talk about these hard things that have to do with the brands of evangelicalism that both of us experienced the hard way. So his channel, I'm going to leave it in the comments in the description, and I'll be there first thing in the morning. God willing, I have internet. Okay, you guys, I love you guys. Have a great day. If you could hit like, subscribe on the way out, that would be good too. Have a great day. Great evening, I should say, because I know we're coming up on evening here, so it must be evening in the States.